Yeah, that.
Minimize that and then this.
Yeah, great. All right, we are streaming now, so I'd like to call the Town of Rochester Town Board March workshop meeting to order. If you could all stand for the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you do the roll call?
Councilwoman Alba, present. Councilman Coleman.
Here.
Councilwoman Smisa. Here. Councilman Nguyen.
Here.
Supervisor Allen.
Here. Great, we're all here. Welcome, everyone. I'm just making sure my phone is not gonna ring in the middle of our meeting. This is our workshop meeting. And our first item on the agenda is the acceptance of the agenda. So I'd like to make a motion that the Town of Rochester Town Board accepts the agenda with the following amendments. So we will be tabling the fence replacement selection. No one sent me quotes. And we're tabling the interview for the public board seats. We will be adding some additional staff appointments, including, we'll be adding the appointment of the seasonal HMEO for the highway department. And, I believe. Oh. We'll be adding, so we'll do the ZBA reappointment in the boards and commissions. Do I have a second? There was 4 seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Okay, so I have the February financial report. There's a few copies in our shared drive. I put these spreadsheets in there. There's a highway and a general fund. Those are both in there. They're also in the drive. That's year to date. But I have the numbers for February. So revenue for general fund was $188,009.14. Highway fund was $1,100,054.07. Ambulance fund was $219,719.66. Street lighting fund was $2,152.50. Expenditures, general fund, $223,850.44. Highway, $178,593.24. Ambulance, $48,667.50. Street lighting, $399.56. And capital fund expenditures for $300. Any questions about the financial report?
Just one question for Kate, which is what percentage of people pay the full amount of their property tax in January versus in installments?
So I don't know an exact percentage, but I can give to you in a number of a little over 8 million. I collect 6 by the end of January. So give or take.
75%.
Yeah. Of that, I'm not 100% sure would be a half payment. We do get a lot of people that try to make the half payment in January. So obviously moving forward, the other half is only the one penalized, but those are figures I might be able to get.
But just roughly.
Yeah, right. I would say we have less than 150 payments. That would be a half payment in January. Out of 4,900.
And we get paid our portion of the taxes that are collected by the first week of February, usually.
For the county.
from Kate.
Oh,
Yeah, so generally I pay out the town first, and then I make installments to the county every month until I settle with them in June.
All right, so moving on, we tabled this from our last meeting, but I'd like to welcome our code enforcement officer, Albert Davis, to the table. You want to join us at the table? So we are we last year talked about establishing a practice of having departments attend our meetings so the board could have FaceTime. I have weekly department meetings, so I'm pretty, I kind of know what's going on in the departments and the code enforcement office. But I think it's really good for the board to have some just one-on-one time, to get an update and then any discussion that we want to have. For this, I was thinking 10 or 15 minutes would be, the allotted time. One thing I want to state just in general, especially when we're talking about departments and especially the code enforcement office. I have circulated we're going to start getting a monthly report of complaints and the actions taken. But a lot of the information that's in these reports would be redacted. So, we're not to share in this public meeting. We shouldn't be sharing any personal information, names, phone numbers. We're really just trying to get an overall sort of like update of the department. And if the board has any questions, general questions, but we don't want to talk about personnel or personnel issues or individual people or individual contact information. So I just wanted to state that at the top. So first, Jerry, I thought it might be helpful if you just give the board a quick overview of how the department's been going in 2025, what exciting changes have happened, and what you're looking forward to.
Well, it's been a pretty rough winter this year. It's one of the roughest we've had in a long time. Our permits are still being issued. We had them slowed down a little while. Houses, not too many houses, but enough to keep us really busy. And for some reason, we're having a lot of swimming pools put in, and hot tubs and additions and renovations and stuff like that. We have probably, on an average, 8 to 10 to 15 inspections a day involving these things. Quite a few of the jobs did shut down for the coldness of the winter this year. And they're starting to reopen, so we can pretty much state that we're going to be very busy from now on. And we're getting numerous this time of year garbage complaints and stuff because the bears are out of hibernation, and they know the exact day that garbage is being picked up, so they make the rounds the night before. But I like the idea of us having writing down these complaints and stuff like that, and getting them taken care of in a timely fashion. Emergency stuff we'll do immediately. It doesn't matter what it is, but if somebody's complaining about the bear turning off the garbage, you might not get it till the next day for us to take a look at it. But other than that, we're expecting a busy spring coming.
How do you feel about the current staffing levels, especially headed into the busy season?
We could use some more help from staff on.
Do you think that's clerical, administrative, enforcement?
Both. Absolutely both. The girls are really busy trying to keep up with the paperwork and everything. And it keeps them real busy, and the two of us on the road are busy. So I would think it would be nice if we could get more help both ways.
Okay, and then I just have another question, then I'll just open it up. for the board, and then also if you have any questions for the board too, Jerry. We're heading into the busy season, like you were saying, and that's definitely been at the top of our minds, at the top of my mind, and residents also have started to come to us about, you know, it's the summer season, we have a lot of event spaces, we have more people, you know, it's just, there's a lot of noise, a lot of complaints. Is there a strategy that you have developing to get ahead of some of that this season?
Well, to be truthful with you, I wasn't really prepared to give a report here. I'm sure I know where it's at, so I haven't done a lot of, but there's always problems with these event spaces with the noise. And if there were some way we could curtail that or some way of stating that, no, you can't have electrified music or just acoustical music or something. And for us, or them to pay for having these sound tests that we have. And now, some other places, these events, they can do it themselves. You know, you buy a $50 thing from Radio Shack and then we're supposed to accept that. You know, you have ambient tempo, ambient noise, and then you have so many decibels you can go above that. And they report to us, we don't know if it's right or not. So there should be a professional person like at the racetrack that comes down and takes these readings. That's the only really, I feel, lawful way to do it, and to have some recourse to get these quieted down.
We do have a noise ordinance draft on our agenda tonight, just so you know. Okay. I'll open it up.
You know, of the new building permits that you issue, do you have a rough guesstimate of how many of them are for new construction? And how many of them are for renovation? And of the renovations, how many of them are new owners versus people who've owned for, say, 3 to 5 years?
I wouldn't have that personally,
But just
secretaries have that. Alyssa would have all that. She keeps track of everything like that. So we would have right down to everything you mentioned, we would have on file.
And then what's the process on the complaint issue? So somebody calls your office and calls a complaint for say the trailer or something that shouldn't be there. What's the process? What can you walk through?
What kind of a trailer are you talking about?
Call it a tiny house.
Tiny houses aren't on wheels, are not allowed.
So if there is one and somebody calls to complain, what's the process?
We advise them of the fact and we give them the section of law and stuff that says they're not that. They have to be built according to New York State specs, which they have to be on the foundation, they have to meet energy code, building code, electric code, and 10 books with the codes on it, so they have to follow that, whether they're a little smaller.
So you advise them of the violation, and then what's the next step?
The next step, if they don't move it or they don't get rid of it, then they go to court.
You do a 10-day
10 to 15 days, yes,
notice to remedy, right?
yes, you give them time.
How many violations in the last 6 months have ended up in front of the courts? Just ballpark. Do you remember the last handful that have gone up there? Like the last week, how many? The last month? Do you have any idea of numbers?
No, I don't take care of that part.
So you don't have overview of the process, or just general idea?
I sign them, yes, I do.
So
Complaints and stuff.
you sign the complaint and then you refer.
Once they go to the court, they're out of our hands.
So once you sign the complaint, it's up to the court to.
Yes.
To hear okay.
And sometimes the courts will give them more time.
How are things going with the new zoning code? We just dropped a massive change to all the zoning code. How's the department handling that? How are you handling that? Is it,
The 140,
yeah, all the changes?
it's a trip.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something that you can do overnight.
Right.
You know, we have to keep referring to it, references and stuff, and something comes up. Because I've been doing this for like 20 years and I had the old codes and stuff in my mind, so I still flash back to that, knowing that, whoops, I better check to make sure it's not, or it's good or.
Yeah,
But we're getting there.
you have what you need and I know you guys have been meeting to kind of go through it and that's working and there's nothing else you need to kind of help get through that.
No, on our monthly meeting or Monday meetings, we usually, if there's something trivial or whatever, we want to change, a word change or a description change or something like that, we bring it up with Aaron, who brings it up to you guys.
Are you seeing anything majorly wrong where you're like, oh, I wish this was included in the fixes and what's the process there? Is it, for the most part, the changes are making sense? Because I know we were trying to clarify a lot of things that were not clear in the previous code and fix issues that you were running into over the years. Do you feel like that's, are you still finding things that need to be reworked or?
We need more work on the judicial part of it.
Mhm.
With the courts and stuff, we need more openness with them. And they need to
Is,
be more open, but
is there an actual prosecutor who actually makes the case on behalf of the, or who, I'm sorry,
yes,
there is a prosecutor who doesn't?
Are you talking, we need to work on fines or like, do we need more stringent fines or different process? What?
but documentation of what's the, the disposition of the
Okay,
thing is, we're not getting back what happened,
okay. So you want feedback when you refer to something like,
like feedback and from the courts, and we haven't been getting it. We've been told we've been getting it, but we haven't been getting it.
But you don't track them once they go to the court.
The
Can
court
you tell
has-
me why you don't track what's ending up in
Because it's
front of
out
the
of our
judiciary?
hands and we don't have any judicial, we don't have.
Right, but for your own records, you could say, hey, I've sent 10 complaints to the courts and I haven't gotten any feedback from them. That would be a piece of data that's useful.
Yeah, and we've talked to them and we haven't gotten any response.
Okay, but in terms of like record keeping on your end, is that something that you could implement?
We have record keeping on our, I just don't now
Okay,
be able to tell you what it exactly is.
Jerry, is there anything that you think besides staffing that could help assist the office with treasurer flow and how is, all this guys during this?
What we've spoken about tonight is pretty much the.
The gist of it, what you think that is needed.
Yes. Definitely needed. You're welcome.
Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Do you have any questions for the board, Jerry, like about our, what, anything?
Next time I come, I'll be a little bit more.
Yeah, and so I can share at our, there is a proactive plan to send letters to all commercial spaces that hold events that has their conditional approvals as a reminder and say that code enforcement will be monitoring those starting at the beginning of the season. So they all have dates and a lot of them have dates. So that's one step. I'm looking to move money around because we talked about at two Mondays ago, we talked about having adding an additional weekend evening officer. Because when complaints come in, it's oftentimes like 10 o'clock at night. And just creating the ability to have someone on call. So we brainstormed that some staff who are currently working could switch schedules. So we've got that as a running list. So we're going to work on that.
Who would respond to a complaint like that? Would that be the constables or would that be?
Right now, it is the constables, but they can't write like code. They can't issue the violations. So what happens is they will witness it and then what can happen is the violation then happens over during the week. So they can't they can't stop it. Yeah. Yeah. So we have talked about having a strategy where more action can be taken right instantly. So that's one thing that it's a running item on our agenda, working that out. And there's some other ideas for having some stronger scheduled presence in the beginning of the event season 2.
The new 140 code has given us a lot more. It's helping.
And it's also one of the most wanted things that we hear from our constituents, is they want more code enforcement, they want more teeth, they want more action. So thank you for partnering with us.
Any equipment or anything the office needs that you can foresee that would make it easier?
Couple of shotguns, maybe.
Jerry,
I don't think.
we can't do that.
No, can't do it. No.
We got the
Just
sound
that
meter
small.
last year, so we have the certified sound meter now. And we also have a temporary clerk position, a seasonal clerk position that is open and that we're planning on hiring for next month. That can assist with some of the office tasks.
Are you implementing drones at all?
Excuse me?
Are you implementing drones?
No.
No? Okay. Because one thing that's been brought up is that sometimes when there's a violation that you're not actually going out into the property. I know there's like restrictions on what you can do, but you could get aerial information.
We have been doing that with Nearmap.
Yeah,
I know Alyssa and Jeremy have been working
I
on
do
that.
think that would have to be cleared with the Department of State. Not town-wise. Department of State would have control over that.
Hmm.
Because they're regulated by what, FAA?
to a certain size. I think you can have small ones that are used under like a certain, don't quote me on this, that's what I understand. Small ones are okay without getting a license for them.
I have a question. Can the town board and code enforcement implement a policy requiring commercial event spaces to submit a schedule? Like, I know it's in the local law for the Speedway, but the town board has to approve their schedule for the year. Is there anything that could be implemented with commercial spaces?
So unfortunately, though, in the code that allowed the event space, which we have since deleted, so it's now no one can apply for that. That there could be a schedule, but it's not as strict as the Speedway. That's one of the reasons why we deleted that section of the code, because we were like, we need to completely rework this. So it's like they notify 3 days in advance. So it's like not a full set schedule the way that it is with the Speedway, which is its
Right.
own standalone law.
Right.
But we can't impose those restrictions on an already approved use.
But moving forward, that's something
Yeah.
that could be implemented.
And in fact, the special use permit legislation in the code allows the planning board to require a renewal process. And that's never been done before, except in one case. And I know they are intending to start using that so that there would be an annual renewal with conditions for all special use permits. But that only can apply moving forward.
Okay.
They can't retroactively do that. Thanks, Jerry.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for
It's
coming.
nice seeing you all, meeting you all.
Come back anytime.
Oh, I forgot our nameplates. Do you know everyone? Okay. Why does everyone, I know you, but why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi, Alexis Alba just started gently.
I'm Zolly, I started last week.
Alex Misa, with my board here.
Michael Coleman, you've been to my house. You've inspected things.
Did you get a ticket?
And you're still talking?
Oh, yeah, they're cool.
Everybody knows me, Brian.
Yeah. Okay, great, Jerry. You are relieved. I'll see you Monday.
Right on.
I won't be on time.
Oh, yeah.
You probably will be.
There's other there.
I'm always 2 to 5 minutes late. Okay, great. So moving on, we have our public comment portion of the meeting. We have started holding these at every single scheduled meeting. So this is the time in our meeting for the public to address the town board. We ask that, person speaking to the board address their remarks to the board, not to other members of the audience in the form of debate. The town board will not respond to questions or comment made during the public comment session. However, a board member may respond should they wish during our board member time on the agenda, which immediately follows the public comment. So just, we move through the comments, and then if anyone wants to address anything publicly, we can do so after the public comment portion. So we always start with the people that are here in person, and then we turn to anyone that's on Zoom. So first, I'll start with the people here. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? Alana had your hand up first.
So I just wanted to make a statement that I'm in support of the noise ordinance of some variety. Thank you for considering it. I agree with Jerry that ambient noise reading should not be self-regulated. So if you guys can implement some sort of position that some neutral party can come with the proper equipment and monitor that, that would be great. And personally, I think outdoor amplified noise should be banned. Full stop.
Okay, thank you.
Well, for now, obviously I'm gonna speak on code enforcement. That has been an issue for 38 years that I've lived here. And then, I just wrote down some notes as the conversation took place with Jerry. Adding on another weekend officer, absolutely. Giving the department a new code with more teeth, absolutely. Correcting the issues with the courts is a biggie. I sat in court every Wednesday night for 6 months and I saw nothing. And I saw no representative from our town, including code enforcement, to show up to even plead a case. And then when I asked about, what is the communication once it does go to the court, no follow-up afterwards. So this is a big issue. I think levying heavy-duty fines and making it publicly known that if you break the code, there's gonna be big times. Personally, for me, it would be 24 hours in jail. You know, that's how severe I would be. The use of sound meter, excellent for doing that. I think the use of drones is appropriate. Like Marbletown has, because the code enforcement officer can only go up your driveway, cannot get out of the car. And some of the things that Dolly mentioned about the tiny houses are in the hills where you can't find them. The only thing we'll find them is a drone, or like Steve did, went up in a plane and took pictures. I'm glad you're considering finally a noise ordinance, you know, but I think more staff has to be added. And I think the biggest thing is that because we've had lack of code enforcement for so long, there's a perception still in this town. Because I had someone say that a realtor told them that you can do anything you want in the town of Rochester with your property. So there's still a perception that you can do whatever you want. Now, even now, like Jerry even mentioned, this new code that just came through. There's a lot of changes that are different, you know, so how to get this all out to the public? Other than me going down and knocking on my neighbor's door and saying, you're in violation of that court. Or, you know, accosting literally builders saying you have a building permit. I'm not a code enforcement officer. They used to say to me, who the hell do you think you are? And I would go down and call code enforcement, and code enforcement didn't do it. So I think there is a big heavy duty perception here of lack of enforcement, and anything that you can do. I think that is number one. that should be the problem tackled in this town. And I think a lot of the things will fall into place for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, there's two things. As far as, the constables, you said they can't, make people stop doing something. They need to have more, how I wanna say it. Able to do more. The town has to approve more stuff for them to be able to do that legally can do. And, second thing, the old house up there by Jean's Tire, that is so unsafe. How come the town hasn't done anything about that yet? I know they talked about it a long time ago.
That's actually in the auction guide to be auctioned off. The county owns it.
The town owns it,
County.
the county. Thank you.
Is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to make a public comment? Michael, would you like to unmute? Hi,
Hi, how is everybody?
good, how are you?
Good. I just wanted to say thank you and just express my gratitude for all of you for considering noise ordinances and for advocating for better record keeping and record keeping of complaints in particular, and everything that I heard today about adding a staff member for the weekends to address noise complaints at night and during non-office hours time. So I'm very grateful. I'm disappointed to hear about the lack of record keeping and filing of complaints. I know that was addressed at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, and it was just addressed again. So I just wanted to express my disappointment in that, not with this board, but just in the code enforcement office. And I'm hopeful that that will change moving forward. One thing I did want to point out, something that you said, Aaron, about moving forward with special use permits. I know that the restaurant that is next to my house, I believe that they have a special use permit. So I guess I can follow up with you. I'm assuming I will get a letter in the mail letting me know when their special use permit is up for renewal. And I'm just hopeful that they will be limited in their noise decibel levels that they will be allowed, and the number of nights per year that they will be allowed to have bands playing on their property. So I'm happy to hear that the special use permits and the planning board will be requiring renewals and re-permits. So I just wanted to say that I'm grateful, and I will continue to be vocal and address the board when needed and when necessary. And I'm hopeful that with the spring season coming, that I'll see some change. So I just wanted to say thank you and express my gratitude.
Did anyone want to say anything else? Okay, so I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion of the meeting. It's now town board member time. I know there's a few things I want to address. Is there anything that any other board members want to bring up at this time? It can be in response to anything that was said or anything else.
I think we really do need to follow up on the chain between
Mhm.
complaints and enforcement. Whether there's just how these are actually prosecuted, especially if the primary witness who wrote the ticket has never appeared in court to state the town's case, or to answer questions, or to work not as a prosecutor, but to be as a witness to say that the code enforcement officer did see the violation. And also, the town should keep a running log of those complaints with a unique identifying number for every complaint that's given to the complainer, so that the complainer can cross-reference it and refer to it.
Also, some violations, a lot of violations don't start as a complaint. So that's just another thing.
But they should be on the list.
Yeah, exactly. Charlotte, did you say?
Yes, so, I agree with the theme of all that we've talked about for the improvements for the code enforcement office and backup for that department, and responding to what we've heard from the public, same with the sound ordinance. This is a question for Mary Lou. Mary Lou, if a property currently has a special use permit from before we took it out of the code, and said property is sold, the new owner would have to apply for a special use permit, or it would
No, it continues.
carry over?
Yes,
Because it's by the property, not the business.
correct.
Okay, and my second statement, just to those in the public, who stated they enjoy finding violations, we do have openings in the constabulary and in the code enforcement office coming up, so please apply if you are seeking employment.
Drone operators.
Yeah, drone operator may be coming to
He
you.
will kill me.
Get
Might be
deputized
like a
real
really
quick.
good.
Jerry don't like me, I can't. Complain.
Following up on Charlotte's question to Mary Lou, is the fact that a special use permit goes with the land based on state law, or is that the way our code is written? Well,
It is on state law and court cases, state court cases. And now if they change the use, then they'll have to come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you buy a piece of land, you had a special use permit for a grocery store, and now you want to put a machine shop repair, then you'd have to go back because it's a different use.
Thank you.
Does code enforcement use near map?
They can. So I'm working to get it officially and then they'd be able to use it.
Because that would be just as effective as a drone.
That's what Marbletown's using.
Yeah,
So it uses what?
it's
Near
map.
map. It's a drone system. It's
Yeah.
it's not just for assessment. It's
Yeah,
for
yeah,
code
that's what,
enforcement.
well, when we were talking about the drones, I was
Yeah.
thinking, does code enforcement utilize that program as well?
They can
Because-
once we have it. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if we got enough users or if we had done.
Yeah.
The right things.
I'm working on getting a shared service agreement for that.
Oh, okay.
Can you explain, this is great. Can you explain what this is, because I can't.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I shared it in there's an Excel spreadsheet in our drive. So basically, there's another tab for 2024 also.
Because these are
So
24 at the top.
these are ones that are, if you look at the notes, they have a key for that have carried over.
Mhm.
So they're like working on, those are like the resolved key. And then there's just the new ones that they're like, their notes are in the resolved working to remedy.
These are new, so is this every complaint from this year in the bottom here?
So the ones that are in the middle, that's
The 2025s.
the 2025s that are pending. And then the ones at the bottom are the ones that, the courtesy letters have been issued, it looks like. And then they're tracking to see whether or not they're resolved. If they're not resolved, I think they move up.
And you said these are complaints, but not.
Not all
So-
yeah, they'll notice other violations.
and
So
that's in the Excel too.
That is in a different, so they do, our municipal code aide and our zoning coordinator keep a lot of records. And when we talked about the board was wanting to, because it's in our law that we receive a monthly report. When I brought that up at the meeting, they had started tracking these in December. So our municipal code aid, I had spoken with the office last year about wanting to implement that. And she had proactively put together a system. So they have a physical file that corresponds with this spreadsheet. So what was the question?
So they have all of those documents and.
Yes.
And that's a separate document, it's not in the Excel.
Right, so then violations, like plain old violations is a different, this is like the complaint tracker.
But
So-
we're gonna.
But violations are not, there are other violations other than what's.
So I think that there should be one consolidated list that has complaints, which are, you have at the bottom, whether they're citizen reported or whether they're identified as a complaint by or a violation by the board, so that we have a single list of every single violation, every complaint, and everything in one list with sequential numbering. And then they can be sorted by resolution or letter, or whatever that happens, but there should be one list rather than scraping and trying to find these in multiple different places.
This works out of Excel, you said, or sheets?
They're doing sheets.
They're just using basic version of Google Suite then for it? Or do we have like a town version?
We are transitioning to the Microsoft licenses, so once we do that, everything's gonna shift.
So I'm sorry, who's administering this spreadsheet? This is code enforcement office? And does the court have access to this document as well, or?
I don't think that would be
That's
proper.
not-
Okay, but like, are
That's
they able to
technically
like,
not-
who would they send it to like update on their end, like to close that gap of
They should
updating?
report, they should
They should
report
report
other
that,
individual
yes.
complaint using the identifying
Yeah,
number.
there should be a rule.
Yeah.
But I think where Charlotte was going was if it's an Excel sheet, it's alterable.
Right.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
no, I was going, there's tons of free workflows that I'm in the middle of procuring one right now, for my business out of sheets that are easy, like user friendly for there's varying generations in the code enforcement office, so varying levels of technology, comfortability and uses, so. I know, because I'm looking for one that's the same thing that works for people who are not very tech savvy to do workflows and tracking, where they can have profiles of each log and it'll stay on one like complaint log and things like that, so that's what I'm curious.
Yeah, there's that.
If I click on that stuff.
The other direction we're going, and so we're kind of working one thing at a time. We are onboarding to a new digital platform for planning board. After that happens, we are going to do that for code enforcement. So the end goal, one of the reasons why we have this clerk position is because we need someone to help manage the records part of it. So because once we do that, all records will be in a system that's digital. So when you pull up a property record, you'll see a history of violations, remedies, applications, all of that. But if we start with what we have now, it would only have like where we start now forward. And we haven't finished the digitization of all the records. But what we'd like to do is get everything uploaded into one digital platform that then it would be on the tablet. So they do use tablets and they use the Google Sheets and they have calendars. But we are looking at a permitting, it's a permit. So the permitting also goes through that system. So it's all in one, it would be all in one place.
That was gonna be my next question, it's the Unicolab, right, is that?
So that's one option.
It's had,
They have not really done that, but they would really like to build that out for us. So that's one option. There's the option that Marbletown and Rosendale use, which they said is fine. And then there's a couple other options that we spent several weeks doing demos, but then once we started moving forward with the planning board, I really only had the bandwidth to support that. But that's what instigated this additional clerk. was to make sure we could implement something like that with the appropriate staffing and have someone that would focus on the records piece. So that, just so you guys know, the end goal is that,
Yes, we're in the 2026 where we can budget for a full.
yeah, we do have bit
Yeah,
budgeted.
we do have.
We
yes, for the
budgeted
clerk, yes,
for
yes.
it. We just,
But I mean, like Kate explained partially in her proposal, sorry, I was trying to think of that, I was like, it wasn't a presentation. To us, so, okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's the smartest thing, cause it'll. The person scanning it. If we can't move them into that position, we'll be ready for that once they're done with their other job. Like.
Yeah,
it's
well,
the
that's-
perfect pinnacle of. once you
Yes,
do that,
that's
you would
exactly the
get
concept.
everything.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
And I see what you're doing
Yeah.
timeline wise.
but I think but in the meantime, everything you guys are saying about utilizing spreadsheets, I haven't delved in, they're doing a lot of tracking. This sheet also had the 2024 tab, but I agree, I agree with the simplifying the workflow and having like a single report that we could look at. So I will work with the office on that, but I just wanted you guys to know that we did budget for the software, We just, in terms of like capacity to implement that, I'm not there right now. We are planning to launch the digital system for the planning board early, April. So then once we're through that, we'll be focusing on the code enforcement office. Did anyone else have anything else?
I have one more thing.
Go ahead.
Mary Lou, do we have the ability to put any requirements on the courts to provide us responses, or is that outside of our jurisdiction? Yeah,
Way outside of our jurisdiction.
So
We
it
don't
has
have
to
any
be-
authority over the courts.
so it would have to be they'd have to be willing to comply if we requested something like that.
Yeah, and I really, because I haven't been involved in any prosecutions or anything, I really couldn't speak to what's happening. I can say that in other towns that I represent, the building department does know those resolutions. And if they weren't at the court hearing when they asked for them, they just go over to the court and the court gives them to them. So I don't know what the communication is. I haven't been involved in it. So I don't want to say the court's wrong or it's not being asked for enough because I really don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
We may just need to ask for it.
yeah.
Right.
I'll definitely get on this.
But the courts.
And whoever is prosecuting these matters, and I'm not sure if it's constables or if, I know we have a special prosecutor there for traffic tickets, and I think at one point we may have asked him to prosecute them. So maybe he's doing it. And if somebody is there during these prosecutions, which I mean, they'd have to be, because you can't prosecute without somebody there to give the evidence to the court. I would think that person should be conveying the decisions to the code enforcement office.
Yeah. I will get on this communication loop. Gap, sorry, go ahead.
That's what I was gonna, Mary Lou, typically in your other town, work, is the process normally that the court is the one who sends the paperwork to the ruling to code enforcement, or is it the prosecutor, like, do you?
In my other towns, the code enforcement officers are the ones who prosecute the ticket.
Yes.
And unless sometimes they have one that's like really complicated or messy, or the property owner has an attorney, and then they'll ask me to go prosecute them. So typically they're there. I mean, if I prosecute them, I have the code enforcement officer there to give testimony. So
So could we require the CEOs to, go to these hearings?
yeah, it's hard for me to say because, I mean, to me, that makes sense. But I don't know what process they're following right now.
Usually
So-
we know who's prosecuting.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Send that out and then
And
I'll
I'm
get on.
happy to, to
Absolutely.
work with you, Erin, and with Jerry and the constables if we need to, or Phil if he's still doing the special prosecutor things to figure out how to do this more efficiently.
Yeah,
Let me know if you need me.
okay, I will.
Okay.
Good discussion.
Yeah.
You said you had something.
I think,
I just had something quick. Can committees use color copier for flyers?
yeah, just send them to me.
Okay, and then I don't want to spend a huge amount of time on this. But the three committees are asking for some clarification on our application for processing new memberships. Are these recommendations or requirements? You know, in terms of how they handle interviews, because one of the committees just wants to do a quick look around, hey, do we want to put this person forward quickly? And then the other one wants to go through the formal process of two committee members on the board member, then bringing the recommendation back to the committee and then bringing that recommendation to the town board. So is this just a requirement or is it just a?
So my impression of what we wrote was we would have a selection committee and the selection committee makes up how they want to do that.
Okay, so they have latitude.
I don't think that every single person, like, say you got like 20 applications for something, I don't think there should be a requirement to interview every applicant that applies.
Okay. And then the other thing in terms, and this goes back to the email that I had going on, in terms of implementing those different tiers of memberships, what can we do, the non-voting memberships? Do we just move forward that through the committees or does that need approval through the town board?
I don't think you can have non-voting members. They can ask for volunteers, they can have, open meetings, obviously, and get participation from the public. But
You just call them volunteers in terms of, the level of access, they're just looking to attend the meetings, attend the events, get access to the email listserv, that kind of thing.
They
not
can
voting.
just do that.
Okay.
I think the issue, so the ECC is a public body. So they should, and they can cultivate their own, they have their own email list. I'm on it. I get not just the committee's emails, but they send out the recycling email. So they have an email list. So they can cultivate that. We have advisory boards that have the option to either operate publicly or not. So I think that's one place to start is the more open and transparent, the more, involvement you could get. So I think that's, one thing to think about with those committees.
And I think that if the town board would like to, even though those advisory committees aren't required to hold up the open meetings, you could require it. You could pass resolutions requiring that if you think it's important.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have. We're just having like an influx of applications and wanting to utilize the energy of those.
Yeah.
That want to be.
You're right. It's a very good problem to have, but we are restricted on who can actually be a commission member.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I would say, I mean, not to it's a little bit of a branding issue. It's just I think the more welcoming, the more you can request for people to assist and be volunteers, the ECC used to have that years ago, and I think they're building it up again now. Where you'd go to a meeting and there'd be a lot of people there and everyone's sitting around the table. But at this time, I don't want to necessarily require the publicness. The one thing that I will say on that is it is tricky to let some people in, not others. So in terms of equity, I think that's something to consider. In terms of if we're going to advise those advisory boards on how to operate, if you're going to let 6 people come, then it starts to get tricky in terms of not letting other people. So that would be, if that's starting to happen, I think we should have a conversation about that.
All right, I'll keep tracking it. Thank you. That's it for me.
The other thing that you came up is attendance. So the advisory committees, the official public bodies should be keeping attendance. But it would be good, maybe we should start having an attendance report for the town board, because when we're making reappointments, that's something we should consider. I wanted to say, so it looked like Michael, I wanted to answer Michael LaPow,
Must
but
be getting kicked off or
Okay.
something. So you're trying to-
I will, oh, there he is. Hi, Michael.
Hi, how
One
are
thing I
you?
just wanted to clarify is, this is bad news. What we were saying about the special use permit renewal can only happen on new applications. So if that was not a requirement in an approval, then it would not be a requirement moving forward. So I just wanted to clarify that the use in question did not have that in their approval. So
So, just so that I understand, so if their special use permit is only good for a certain number of years, is that typical?
no, so the way I don't want to misquote the code, but in the special use permit section, it says that the planning board may, at their discretion, require that there be a renewal in the permit. That they submit and come before the planning board on a basis that they determine.
Okay,
That has not been utilized in special use permits. So a lot of the event spaces that receive special use permits did not have that as a requirement. So that requirement cannot be imposed on them after they've gotten approval. But if the during the review of new special use permits that would have to be applied for, they can utilize that. It just hadn't been. And it was expressed to me that it was the intent of the planning board to look into using that regulation more, but they can't require that someone who's already gotten approval that doesn't have that condition
right.
retroactively be subject to that. I just wanted to clarify that.
But an amendment that
I-
existing use permit would not,
Yeah, we can't do that.
we can't do what?
We can't make an amendment.
No,
Oh.
if the property owner
Oh, yes.
wants to amend the existing special use permit, that's a
Yeah.
application.
Yes, I
And
believe,
that condition can be imposed.
I believe at that point you could. Yes, sorry, I
That's-
misunderstood what you were saying.
That's correct. And I just want to add something in. If the condition that you have to come to renew your permit is put into an approval, that doesn't mean you're going through the whole special use permit process
Right.
again. It's not starting over. What happens is you look to see if there are violations, and if there are, they do have a certain period of time to correct those violations in order to get their renewal. So it's not starting over.
Right, but if they don't, then it can be revoked.
Yes, yeah, if they don't come in, then it expires.
So I don't know why the planning board didn't use that more, but hindsight is 2020.
But if there's a violation of the special use permit, it could be.
If there's violations of the special use
Yeah.
permit, the code enforcement officer can enforce those violations.
And does the law permit that those special, that as a penalty for that violation, does the current law say that the permit can be revoked?
It would have to be revoked by Supreme Court, not US Supreme Court, luckily, but in Kingston by county, because violations, you need due process, so you have to go in front of court. The local courts, the town justices only have the jurisdiction to issue fines. However, the county and Supreme Court in Kingston have the authority to shut them down. So it's a tougher process because it's a violation. Are you taking property rights? So it has to go to a higher court.
And who makes the determination whether it's only going to be sent to the municipal court or whether it warrants a revocation of the special use permit and is presented to the Supreme Court, a Supreme Court?
It would be a recommendation to the town board, I believe, and I'll double check this because each town is a little bit different, so I hope I'm telling you the right thing for Rochester. But I believe that the code enforcement officer makes a request of the town board to go to county or Supreme Court.
Thank you.
Because, there are lots of things out there where if you go to town court and they can issue, a $200 or a $300 fine, it's worth it to pay $200 or $300 and continue to
Yeah.
violate. Right? And we've had a few cases that we've taken to the Supreme Court for these are code enforcement violations. They weren't special use violations because, the people were fined and they didn't care. So we went to court. We got an order from the Supreme Court judge. They still didn't care. So then I brought a motion to hold them in contempt of court. They had to go to court and the judge said, you have 30 days or you're going to jail. And boy, did they clean up their property fast. And that was for the town of Rochester decades ago.
So just to clarify so that I understand.
All right, hey, Michael, I'm really
Yeah.
sorry, but I'm gonna stick to our rules.
Okay, no
Um,
problem. Can I send you an email?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on from town board member time. Unless anyone has anything else. So we're to resolutions. So the first resolution is the acceptance of the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. So next up, I'm gonna read this one. This is I have the numbers. This is our, I'll make a motion for the approval and payment of abstract 3B of 2025. General fund in the amount of $34,225.27. Highway fund in the amount of $44,559.82. Capital fund in the amount of $5,037.50. And escrow was $5,618. And the approval and payment of abstract 15 of 2024 for highway fund in the amount of $69,555.20. Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Oh,
Just because I was the only member who did not sign the voucher, what was the abstract for? For 2020?
that was for the chipper.
Oh, thank you. I was just wondering what it was.
Just another salt payment.
That was for the chipper. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. So next we have the Housing Advisory Committee Resolution Amendment. Charlotte, did you want to present your proposed amendments or do you want to move this to discussion?
We moved to discussion.
Okay. And then we tabled the fence selection, so we're now on to, and we tabled interviews. We have one interview confirmed for the 10th. So we will move on to board and commission appointments, so we're not doing the Board of Assessment review tonight, because that's the interview that we have. Do I have the liaisons want to make those motions? Okay.
Comes up like.
I may wait, so we had several good interviews, there was agreement on who to appoint. I just realized, I'm not sure, since we have the vacancies, I was just looking on the website to see. I don't know what the term should be. And so if we want to wait, we can do it at the next meeting, because we don't get the first reports until April 15th, right?
No, they are due the 7th.
April 7th,
Yeah,
okay.
they're 3-year terms.
Yeah, I know the 3-year terms, but I don't know when, because they were staggered, we have done.
I have them online. I have them in that spreadsheet.
Okay, so do we know, because we didn't talk about who to appoint for longer terms. So I may want to just clarify that. Are they all gonna be 3-year terms?
Yes.
Okay, so we can do it.
Okay. Just,
And the other thing that came up was, I mean, they liked we interviewed 3 candidates and they liked all the candidates. They were disappointed that there were only 2 slots on each committee. So we're doing kind of like splitting them up. But it sounds like if they want to have additional people volunteer or help them out, that's okay. They don't need to be official members of the committee. Is that what I'm understanding?
well,
Mary Lou's making a face.
for that commission,
I don't think for that committee that would work.
Okay.
I don't think that would work, because they're reviewing financial data.
Okay, so one thing, we don't have to decide this now, but one thing they were curious, which, given it's been a challenge here. We may want to, as a board, consider amending that and possibly making it a larger committee, so we have kind of a backbench.
I see,
So we could change it from 5 to 6 or 7.
or combining.
Or combine it, yeah, I know, yeah, we also have a weird thing where we intentionally kept them separate, but they could be.
I lied to you.
Okay.
So we have one term that expires December 31st, 2027, and one term that expires December 31st, 2025.
All right, so can we just do this at the next meeting?
Yes,
And I'll just confirm, and that's for both?
both committees.
I am, in the meantime, I'm gonna contact the people and let them know what the.
Okay, did you have another appointment you wanted to do?
Yeah, sure, although, what's the term? What was it again?
5,
So that, what year is that?
2029.
2029 or 2029? 30, right?
24, it expired
The
2024.
last one expired in
Oh.
24.
Okay. Town of Rochester, I'd like to make a motion, the Town of Rochester Town Board appoints Sam Zarowski to serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals in a term expiring December 31st, 2029.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? I abstain.
All right, who's gonna help me with the math on my term?
Oh, I have, oh, you have yours? Okay. Are you gonna do those for reappointments? Is that what you're doing? In 2-year terms, or do you wanna establish the new terms and then?
Good call, I should wait and see. If they won't been on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why don't we wait? for this?
Yeah, let's do the staggered terms, and then if you wanna pull them and see who wants, yeah?
Yes, yeah, that sounds.
Okay, great. Okay,
They're all fine.
okay, good.
Okay,
That's,
so I have one reappointment, so Kurt Sutherland, 1-year terms.
so that one, I think I could not find his appointment date, so I think he's just on the ECC.
Okay.
But I could not find it, so I don't know when his term expired,
Okay.
and they are 3-year terms, I think.
This is an ECC.
Yeah, I think they're
Yeah.
3-year terms.
They're all 3-year terms.
Yeah, and then I have the one for the. That one is. So we had, I believe, so the vacancy, I believe is for 2026.
26. So in terms of what I say for Kurt's term, we just don't have a,
I think he's in a current term. I think it was just a mistake. that it
okay, so
wasn't
he's not
on.
expired yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will look into it, and if not, we'll just reappoint him, but I'm pretty sure his term expires in 2025.
Okay, so then I just make a motion that the town of Rochester Board appoint Henry Rich to the ECC for a term to expire 2026.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Okay, so he will need to take an oath of office.
Yes, okay.
I can reach out to him, I have his email.
Okay, great. So 12/31/26. Okay. And Climate Smart is tabling.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're still doing interviews. Yep.
So I think that's it for those appointments. I'd like to go ahead and make the staff appointments. So I'd like to make a motion that the Town of Rochester Town Board appoints Robin Quick as a temporary planning board and zoning board of appeals secretary at the rate of $22.75 per hour for a maximum of 35 hours per week, effective March 28th, 2025, and ending through April 30th, 2025. Any discussion? She doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to for this. Okay,
Right.
Cool.
Oh, I need to amend this to say with consent of the chairs. So, do you accept that?
Accept that amendment.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. If you guys could just bear with me for 1 second, I'm gonna get. Oh, okay, so we're taking
Yeah, we're taking a small.
I just have to pull up the,
What did you have to say? Teacher called in there. So.
Hi, Zolly, welcome.
Hi, how are you? I got your email.
Good.
I forgot to respond to. Thank you.
It's been a long time, so this is quite nice.
Yeah.
The next staff appointment is the appointment of seasonal MEO. So I'll make a motion that the town board recognizes the appointment of Patrick Davis as seasonal MEO for the term April 1 through June 30th, 2025, at the rate of pay of $27.95 per hour.
What's an HMU?
HMEO is the, oh my gosh,
Heavy.
heavy
Okay.
Machine operator.
machine operator, and then MEO is just equipment operator, so
Doesn't have a CDL.
yeah, doesn't have the CDL license. Yeah, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained, motion carries. All right, moving right along to discussion items. I'm recusing myself from this next discussion item. So I'm gonna just leave the table. Well, okay, I'll leave. the
No, you
room.
can just leave it there.
Well, it depends on what it is. Because if it's something that she has a financial gain or anything personal, I think she does have to leave the room.
I was gonna leave. them. You're muted.
She does not have to leave the room, but she has to leave the table.
Okay.
I was just reading up on that for someone else today.
All right. Is that,
You're
Am
the
I-
chair now.
am
You're
I the chair, am I the chair right now?
I have to relinquish.
Are you the deputy?
Yeah. he's
I'm a deputy supervisor.
Then you are.
How long can I ask?
Or send you green.
Do you guys know the background of this? Do you want me to? Okay, so, for the benefit of the public and anybody else watching, so, this is a draft local law. I've reviewed this with Mary Lou, to make sure that, it aligns with what we're looking to do. So for those who aren't aware, we have the ability, by New York State law to change the term town supervisor, which is currently 2 years, and we can actually vote to submit to mandatory referendum to have the term for the supervisor's office changed from 2 years to 4 years. So mandatory referendum, i.e., if we as a board decide that we want to submit it to that, it can be put on the ballot, and then the residents can weigh in about whether or not they think it's appropriate change. So this is something other towns in Ulster have done. Mary Lou, I was trying to research this. Is it Hurley, Rosendale, and Marbletown all have 4 years?
I think Rosendale just passed it to 4 years, but I'm not positive.
Marbletown last year or the year before, Mary Lou?
I don't know. I don't
Year
represent them.
before, then yeah, I think it's.
And I mean,
They're both
Kate, are you a 4-year term?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, and
92.
that's, she's a 4-year term because we did this for the town clerk years ago.
Yeah, it was 92. They put it up for town clerk. and
Yeah,
highway.
we did a long time ago. So yeah, town clerk and highway are 4 years because we've
Highway
passed.
didn't pass.
No, highway didn't pass.
Oh, it didn't. Oh, that's right, way back then. So
Yeah.
highway's 2 year. And but it's not just you voting, you have to have a public hearing because it is a local law.
Right.
Yes.
We have to
Okay.
put it through the local law process, and Mary Lou, the thing that I'm not aware of, and maybe we don't have to figure it out now, but to get it on the ballot, there is a time sensitivity, which is why I
Yes.
want to bring it up now. and
Yes,
start
I
the process.
believe I think it's 150 days before it has to be submitted, but I'll check on the time in
Okay,
case
so-
it's 180, but it's definitely something we have to get done soon to get it on the ballot.
And so we have to have the local law passed within that time frame for it to be.
And
able
then, right, and then it goes to the county to put on the ballot.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at this. It's modeled after some of the other laws. Do people want to discuss it? Because I'll say why I think it's
Yeah, I
important.
thought
but-
you modeled it, did you like, you just Rochester-fied, right?
I mean, I did. a
Yeah,
little-
you did a little.
I did a little more than
Yeah,
that,
I know you
but-
didn't just Rochesterize it.
I put a little-
I'm a late Rochester.
a little spice on there.
Like what I said, yeah.
And Mary Lou had some changes.
Yes, yeah, that's what I thought. I was gonna say, that I was fine with it after going through and with Mary Lou's comments, but open to other, I think that this is great, I think that. Every 2 years is really perhaps even going on with the town. It's have a turnover every 2 years when it's so much
Mhm.
that you have no being in that position, I think is.
Yeah.
So I support it.
Yeah, continuity is important. This has like literally nothing to do with Aaron, it's just a pure hypothetical, but can you like refresh us of what the board's powers are to like deal with a power hungry executive should it happen?
The town supervisor has no executive authority unless granted by the town.
Yeah, okay.
So
All right, so in
You
terms
can
of like
take
the
it away.
administrative stuff
You can
that,
take
We appoint them. to-
Right, she,
For the day to be the budget officer,
Right.
they're honestly
personnel
no
issues.
equal
Yeah.
than, no different than us.
Yeah.
Besides those things, we appoint the
Right.
power to, and then they chair the meeting.
got it.
But other than that, that's, yeah, there's backups. for-
isn't that what they do in North Carolina? Take away all the authority.
Right,
And they only have 1 vote out of 5.
just for the record, that is literally no reflection on Aaron,
Oh.
it's just purely.
No, it's
Oh.
a good, no, it's
Exercise for
good,
me.
yeah.
She left the room, we won't tell her.
It's a good question.
Definitely not on YouTube.
Cause I asked that too, I think I asked that at my supervisor of towns things, I was like, wait,
Yeah.
or my association of towns training, I was like, wait, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Cause I was like, oh, it's not. Cause I was unclear on that.
You've got all your fancy training gone, why? Not like, I would have to do like, they don't have it like in person this year, I think.
Oh, no, I didn't go in person.
Are there any amendments to the draft?
my amendments, I think, are on what was presented to you.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
the,
that's-
As I read it, it looks good and I'm happy to make a motion to.
And Marbletown did do this. I remember, they absolutely did.
Yeah, it's definitely Marbletown, I just couldn't remember.
I know Marbletown, Rosendale. I didn't know Hurley.
I don't know about Hurley. I don't know if Hurley would have voted to do it.
yeah, I thought it was Hurley, but I wasn't
Roger
sure.
Mason Hurley, I bet he did. He's like the only like.
I was trying to figure it out, but
Um,
couldn't in time. Yeah, so I think, you know, you guys bring up some of the things that concern me, which is continuity. We have multiple major grants and infrastructure efforts that are span more than 2 years. And the spin up time for that is significant. You know, staff turnover, making sure that people aren't dealing with a new administration every 2 years. That's changing the way things operate. You know, and the other thing that's, I think, hard from the supervisor's perspective, we have a really small supervisor's office. We currently have a bookkeeper and supervisor, and we've had turnover in the bookkeeper role. And that's a lot of the continuity. You know, we're lucky in the clerk's office that we have people that have been there as long as they have, and there's everybody,
I started my 28th year.
well-oiled machine.
No.
Yes.
Not in that office, but as a town employee, yeah. It was
So,
my 20th year.
yeah, I guess Mary Lou, it sounds like we could make a
We could
motion
set-
to schedule it for public hearing.
Yes, absolutely.
What are you guys thinking we should do the public hearing?
Is there a required notice period or can we do it at the next meeting?
I was gonna say, Kate, is there enough time to get a notice in to do it at the first
Yeah.
meeting in April?
That's- We don't meet for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
Right, so you should be okay with
guys can
that,
make a
right?
Motion night to set the public hearing, we can advertise it.
Yeah, and I'd recommend that you set it for that first meeting in April, just because there are time restrictions on getting it into the Board of Elections, should this pass.
Okay, so can you guys, do you want to make the motion? You can.
Sure. I don't know what the date is, but I move that we hold a public hearing on this proposed law at our next meeting, which is 2 weeks from tonight.
It's April 10th and at the Harold, to be held at the Harold Lipton Community Center
At
at 6:30 PM and to request the clerk send notice.
Second.
Is what local law is this gonna be?
Well, this would be local, we have a local law 4 on the books for the end of April. So this would be local law 5. But if
Right,
it passes first, then we'll have to. switch
Yeah, we
it.
can, and yeah, we. can-
Right, the Secretary of State is going to number them in the order they receive them. So
It's.
you don't even really
local law
need a
5.
local law.
Okay.
Yeah, but it will end up being 4.
Can we second it?
I seconded.
All in favor?
Hi.
All opposed? Abstain? I'm an aye too. So, yeah. Sorry, it's my first time sharing. All right, can I relinquish the hot seat?
If you
I
want
can
to.
find Erin.
Wait, can I hold the hot seat?
No,
We'll take over from there.
Gonna lay off like everybody.
It's been that way.
I didn't.
maybe she's taking a shower. Does the shower work?
I was outside.
10 o'clock in the morning. Is there an official act to hand back?
I'm here, so it's, your reign is
Just
over.
by entering the room? by entering-
Michael, you have to go ta-da. That's all.
Ta-da.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's whenever Kate writes down that I joined. again.
So there's a chance, influence. Yeah. I think it's taken. It's unclear what happened. There's a bloodless good.
Sure.
Do you want to take it away?
Absolutely. So I did email each of you and I did also print a copy for you if you want to follow along with that. A little background, we did purchase, a scanner back in 2021. Unfortunately, that scanner was not compatible and we are unable to use that scanner. So moving forward, we are looking to purchase a new scanner in hopes to sell the old one, once this is up and running. A big reason behind doing this, as you know, 3/4 of our documents are still in paper form. And a lot of times, the only way you can retrieve that is based on memory. Hopefully, if you've been here in that time frame, we've had a huge turnaround since 2021 in staffing. So it's very difficult for a lot of departments to retrieve records when they were not in the office when that was taking place. So it's been a real struggle when it comes to foils, and it's a struggle when it comes to trying to find answers for people. 3 departments that have permanent records at all times: our building department, planning department, and our assessor's office. So those are the 3 offices that we are looking to start with first to digitize. We did have a grant where the records for the building department up to that point were all digitized, but from 2021 till now, nothing further has been digitized. Part of that problem was the issue we were dealing with scanner. And then we do have a DocuWare program that our building department works out of, and that is the software that we will be doing all of our records management out of when we get that opportunity. The building department has had great success with it, and it makes it very easier. There's a lot of search engines that you can use. You can pick your the items that you want to use as the search for each department. With that, we don't have the time, as you can hear with Jerry. There are a lot of our departments that are completely understaffed, and I think that's why a lot of things have fallen at the wayside. We have operated at bare minimum for so long. And the town has grown so much in the last few years that the way things have operated can no longer operate that way. So with that, I guess I should backpedal a little bit. I have 2 ideas as far as what we should do with records management. I would like to see us move forward and hire a staff member to start the process. But also, as they're doing that, keep a running tab of how much they're actually completing in that time frame to see if this is going to be more cost effective than sending documents out. I do think possibly we could do both. I didn't budget this year for offsite, like sourcing and scanning. It is pricey, as you can see, just 200 plans was over $6,000. And the building department has 2,000 plans. Unfortunately, the company that we utilized with the grant ran out of time, and there were documents that were never digitized, and that's also part of the downfall of so many of the records that didn't get completed. I would like to see us move forward with purchasing a scanner and hiring a staff member to start that. And like I said, while that's going on, also start keeping a running tab to see if this is cost effective or if we should outsource it. I gave you 3 quotes that for scanners. I'm not really particular about what brand we go with. HP was the recommended one that the representative gave me that we use currently for our copier. And it also happened to be the one that I do know another clerk uses. She's the only one that is currently digitizing records, so I didn't have any other clerks to kind of piggyback off of what works for them in software or equipment. I do see that the Toshiba is a little bit higher than the one if you were to purchase it on Amazon, but that comes already built and ready to go. We just plug it in. So to me, I almost feel like it's worth the extra $500 to be ready to go, because I really don't feel like we can continue to delay this process much longer. So I gave you the 3 quotes of what I found. If you want me to keep additionally looking, I can. If there is a particular product that you've used, I'm open for those suggestions as well. In the Toshiba, I did also put a lease agreement option in there. I wanted the board to have that as well. Because I do have the concern of what we've found with this last scanner is over time, what's going to happen if it becomes obsolete and we can't use it any longer. But with a lease, you will always have a payment. And we will be paying significantly more money at the end of it. So I don't know how the board feels about a lease option as opposed to a purchase option.
The lease is always gonna be more expensive than.
Exactly, and obviously it has its pros to it as well, because you will always get the best up to date, but you're always gonna have that payment.
But I think that the chances of the equipment becoming obsolete in 5 years is pretty remote.
I hope so. We thought that with the last one. So I just wanted to give those to you.
And I also agree with you that it's better to pay for the setup and just get a turnkey thing, especially since the difference in prices. So,
Yes, and I was trying to think today of a good location, because the person is going to need a desk and a computer to work at.
I've solved it.
Oh, you did?
Nurse's station on wheels.
Okay, sounds good. Because I was gonna make a spot in my own.
No, you know those
Okay.
nurse's stations on
Yes,
wheels?
yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Do you have somebody in mind for this temporary clerk?
So Erin did advertise for it. She has received the
55.
Oh my
55
goodness.
applications for it. I did ask her to give me a little time because I was playing catch up from
Yeah.
not being in the office for a couple of weeks,
Sure.
but that is something we definitely want to do within the next. Maybe by the April 10th meeting, we can have somebody. I
Yeah,
think.
I've
So
screened
point.
down to like 12 people
Mhm.
so far.
Yeah, so I would like to be able to hire a person and also purchase this within the next month, one way or another, and so we can get started on.
Is it possible when you have it like down to 3, when one part of the interview process to ask them their opinion on the machines in terms of what they work with and what they enjoy using?
Yeah, we definitely could ask of that for sure. Okay.
Yeah, just curious, like,
Yeah.
I don't have extensive scanner
But
experience.
I think the scanner is less of an issue than the software platform. That you use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have it all set. One question I have, Kate,
Mhm.
you are working with the Toshiba rep who's the one that really started to identify that the Canon
Yes.
would not work. So he knows that
Oh,
this
yes.
will work. Okay.
Yes. Yes, this gentleman really went above and beyond for us last year, through Toshiba. He was coming to service our current machines and saw the scanner, and like, we were kind of talking to him about like the issue that has been set up. He actually set it up for us. And then he also was the one who told me about different software programs that he has utilized. And we did a couple demos and we ended up utilizing one of the software programs that he recommended. And then he came out and he actually tried to set up the scanner to make it compatible with the software and spent countless hours with our IT, and neither our IT nor the gentleman were able to get it to work. So I do feel like we've developed a really good rapport with him. I trust him. I find him to be honest. So I just wanted to include that in there in the beginning, and we do use him for our other equipment, and I don't think you haven't had issues with Toshiba at all, right? So,
Well, once I figured out it does 3-hole punch. It's my favorite machine in the world.
Do you have a recommendation?
I would like to see us go with the Toshiba pricing of the 7,959, because that will come set up and we can just go right to work with it.
And we budgeted
10,000.
10,000.
And we're hoping to sell the other ones. so-
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, can I go ahead?
Yeah, let's make you happy.
I make a motion, that the town of Rochester Town Board approve the purchase of a Toshiba.
It's an AP, HP.
Oh, HP, sorry, it's under it. From the retailer, so that we purchase an HP design jet T850 36-inch MFP. With the full installation and setup. And a 2-year warranty from Toshiba. For an amount not to exceed 8,000, is there greater shipping and okay, I just wanna make sure that there's. Right, was it?
Yeah, this is everything.
Okay, so then for $7,958.75.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Great, and then, yeah, with that position, we do want that person to be able to also clerk. So we do want that person to be able to answer the phone, fill in offices when there are absences, be trained on secretary meetings. If we do see that there is a need for a full-time position, but that is competitive. So we're starting with the part-time for now. Great. Okay, moving on. So I think I really need a board member to assist me with the code enforcement and building department fees. I just have not been able to prioritize this. I got the I wanted to do a deep dive into the permitting actuals, because I realized that we haven't really done that. One of the goals in increasing the code enforcement and building department fees is that we were wanting to increase them as part of the budget. We did increase them to offset the tax levy. So this department used to cover its cost plus overhead with the fees that were coming in, and now it has stopped doing that. So that was the impetus, but when I started to analyze the numbers, I felt like they were very off from what I was seeing in other towns, and I realized we needed to do this in a a more cost based perspective.
Help with that.
Okay, so I just got all the financial information records from them like yesterday afternoon, so I hadn't gotten a chance to dive in. But I did talk to the office about having a goal of adopting a new fee schedule and that'd be effective May 1st. So if we could do something by the next meeting, we would have time to advertise the new fees. So does that work for everyone? Okay, great. So Rosalie, we'll get together on that. Great. Mary Lou, I was gonna ask you to walk us through the Charter Spectrum franchise agreement renewal process. Are you in a position to do that?
Kind of, sorta.
Okay.
I know you sent the franchise agreement out, did you also send their notice of public hearing, et cetera, out?
Yes.
And their letter? Okay. The process that they have presented is absolutely correct. All right, it's the correct process. And the franchise agreement that they have presented meets with what's required by the Public Service Commission. However, before we set a public hearing, we want to make sure that we agree. This agreement definitely meets Public Service Commission requirements, but other things can be added to the agreement. Or changed a little bit. For example, I see they have this as a 15-year agreement, which is now allowed. It used to be 10-year, and we always had 10-year agreements. They're now allowed to have 15. I don't know whether you want that or not, or if you want to go to 10.
Go to 10.
Okay. Also, they have in here for the payment of your franchise fees, the 5% you get, that they would send it to you annually. I think it's like February 15th of the next year. And that's what they've done. That's what they've done in the past. But I would recommend you get it quarterly. Why should they be earning the interest on it?
I
And
agree because
we just asked them to do that in another town, and they had no problem with it. So I would ask for that. And in our current franchise agreement, we have in there that they will provide cable whenever there's 20 residences per linear mile, which is not something they had to do. Under the regulations, they only had to do one if
25.
it was 35, I think.
35.
Is what it used.
Can we specify that that is not for new linear mile, but sort of like last mile?
I'm not
So-
sure I know what you mean.
So if you have a 1 mile long road or a 2 mile long road, and in the first mile of that road, they're already wired for 25 or 30. When you go the next half mile, that they're counting back. So they're counting back 1 mile rather than looking marginally at 10 houses on the prospective half mile.
Yeah, we can definitely request that. I'm not quite sure how to write it, but we can figure it
Well,
out.
it's last mile, so you're looking back at the density for the last mile, looking back from where the proposed new wiring is.
That's something we can look for. We had to, I mean, it was quite a negotiation to get that last time. But I don't see why we couldn't ask for that.
Do we know townwide what areas don't have?
Yeah,
Are you there?
no, I
Michael's the guy.
I nagged them to do mine. I was there. But it was like a 3-year process and we got them to close the 3 big gaps.
we just did that last year.
Chosen, Medicons and
Cherrytown.
Cherrytown were closed. So it's, the problem we have is we have these individual homes that are just
Way out.
way off the grid.
Yeah.
But we actually drove around and did like a survey and there's very few major roads in town that currently don't have it. And we had a hard time trying to find people who didn't have it. So I almost wonder if we should ask them, you know, for a certain amount of homes that
From
they'll
the road.
cover, yeah. Well, they do 200 feet from the road, they'll cover, but I'm curious if there are ways. I know of at least one person that's contacted me that's just off the main road that doesn't have service. But I definitely don't want to sign a 15-year. Can we do less than 10 years? Can we do 5 years or is 10 years?
I think 10 years has always been standard. Also, so far as negotiating with them to put in, you know, every linear mile that has the 20 homes in it. And, you know, with that addition of Zolly's language, I think it's going to be hard if you're only going to give them a 5-year agreement.
Yeah, well, that's fine. We can do 10 years, but I do want to make sure that we get something out of it. They drove a really hard bargain. We
Yes.
paid them. to close those gaps. And there were a lot of games, and this is our, we kept saying this is our one point to negotiate with them. Mary Lou, what I don't know is, I mean, as part of this agreement, we're giving them authorization to operate their network within town. If we don't have an agreement, do we have any recourse to stop them or to, like, is there
Well,
any?
we can say you can't do it anymore because you don't have a franchise agreement, but then nobody in town has cable anymore either.
And this is a non-exclusive contract, right?
Right.
Non-exclusive, right?
But Spectrum has a monopoly.
But if anybody else comes in, we have to have the same terms if
Yeah.
somebody else comes in. So it's not exclusive, but like if Verizon wanted to come in, we couldn't give Verizon better terms than we're giving.
No, did we get any free mileage on the last contract?
I think we did in the previous one, we had,
Yeah, we had in here, so I wanted to ask you if this has been done. So we had the where density per cable mile is 20, and I can't remember what a cable mile is 20 or greater that they would install. And we also had, in addition, the cable company will install its system without a contribution in aid of construction in the public rights of way in the development known as Mill Rock Estates on Sundale Road and on Palentown Road for a total of 6 miles and then an additional 4 miles as mutually agreed upon. I'm not sure what happened with that.
yeah, I'm pretty sure we checked those specifically out and those are done.
Those
But
were
that
done. Okay.
language of an additional 4 miles, or I think we should include something that gives us the ability, if a resident comes to us and says, oh, I didn't realize this was a possibility.
Have we exhausted that 4 miles?
I don't even know how that's tracked. Like I've never seen
And a
any
cable mile is not
communications
the same
about
as a
that.
road.
Right. Let me see what cable
So I
mile
would
is
see if
in
we
the,
could get some more on the free mileage,
Yeah.
because they've already done Mill Rock and Palentown.
And doing 20 residents within a cable mile, I mean, that's in their interest to do that.
Yeah,
I don't know, internet's like $80.
it's also you put. you
well,
have to
don't forget,
set
this
up
isn't, this
running-
is not
running
internet.
Garage in your house, and then you can do something.
Yeah.
This is not internet.
No, I understand, but if you have,
But yeah, they usually do them together, right?
Yeah.
But this is not an internet contract. This is cable TV. So these are things we could negotiate with them. We could ask them to let us know where that 4 miles was. And I don't know, Michael, what your timeline is or what the board wants. But I don't know if you want the supervisor to present these things to them or if you want Michael to, because he's dealt with them in the past.
yeah, who are you talking to then?
His name is Kate.
Okay, so it's not.
Yeah, no, this is a new guy.
This is a different, yeah.
Yep, this is a new guy who just works on franchise.
You were working with
agreements.
someone out of the grants, like,
Right.
Six Soliano?
As long as I don't have to talk to the person I had to talk to before.
I don't know if they're building on the fiber network.
But they, you know, Rosendale didn't ask for much, but they gave them what they asked for. So after
And
you
what is
have
our-
an agreement that you're happy with, then you set up your
Obviously.
public hearing. So I think that if they could, before your next meeting, if you guys could agree to terms, then you could set up that public hearing for the end of April at your 4th Thursday meeting in April.
I'm gonna reach out to Rich too, because they negotiated terms in Marbletown, specific, like,
Yeah, and Rosendale is pretty well covered because they're
Right.
just not as rural as we are.
yeah.
So they didn't have to negotiate these other terms to get cable to the individual homes. So do you folks want to do that? That reach out?
yeah, I think myself and another board member,
Mike volunteered. Michael volunteered.
Mike's kind of our cable guy, isn't he?
So we've got, 10-year quarterly payments, which I would love because that payment came in the last day of the year. It was very stressful for me. Then I think
Free
that,
mileage.
The linear mile.
yeah, free mileage, but I wasn't sure.
Extending the distance that they'll do free, or giving us a
Right.
pool from the, in addition to the 200 feet that they have in the contract.
Okay,
Right, and don't forget that the 20 per the mile is in the old contract. It is not in the new contract, so we want that in
Right.
there. And we want it to include that extension
The.
from the mile moving down if you have enough houses, yeah.
okay.
So once you agree, then we set up the public hearing.
For the agreement.
Right, but you have to have your
draft.
agreement, finalized as to
Right.
terms.
So what happens to that franchise fee now? Just go to the general fund or?
Yeah,
Never sold.
Hmm?
Never sold.
I think they came in a little higher last year than what we budgeted. They would like to negotiate.
You guys don't like?
We
I
are
want to lower it?
negotiating.
Okay, so I think, you're good on, I took,
I took the
Notes.
notes, but I want to cross check.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so we will try to have a agreed upon terms to present at the next meeting. And then we will, or with an aim to set the public hearing. Okay. Are we ready to move on? So the community housing real estate transfer tax project update. I scooched I did this afternoon. I had a project folder in Dropbox that I scooched over today into our current meeting folder. And I have a project plan. I have all the documents in there. There's like a draft enabling legislation document for the real estate transfer tax. So that would have to get passed by the state in order for us to do this. I know there's been some proposals for it to be enacted, but I know it got delayed last year. And I haven't been able to find any updates on where that legislation is at right now. But the main thing that we're focusing on right now actually is hosting 2 housing forums next month. Well, at the end of next month and early May. The idea being not to sell real estate transfer tax for a community housing fund, but to have an open community session on the housing issues in the town of Rochester. Because this has been done so few places, all we have is draft legislation for other areas. And while it seems really nice, I think we want to make sure that anything we're doing fits with what the issues are and what we think appropriate solutions could be. So we have April 27th, which is a Sunday, will be the first, and then Wednesday, May 7th will be the second session. We are planning on these being like sister sessions, but they won't necessarily be identical. The Housing Advisory Committee is working diligently on getting subject matter experts and members of the community that have firsthand experience to share and just getting a panel. So we're thinking the first half of the event will be more listening, hearing, from both the community and from people that have seen solutions, have suggestions. And then we'll do more like a public feedback session where we haven't figured out the format yet, but where it'll either be breakout sessions or sort of listening to having a discussion about the solution, the problems and solutions and what might work, and then we'll be documenting it. So that was sort of step. We really want to have this be something that we are working with the community on. And at the same time, though, like I said, I am working on a draft, because in order to do this outside of there being a law that allows us to do it, it's a home rule law process. So we have to have a law passed by the assembly by June 21st that would enable us to do this. So if we were going to do this year, it is like a tight timeline, but we sort of decided that we wanted to try and move forward and both get input from the community and put the bones in place to sort of move forward with that. The law template that I'm using is what was passed. It's 68K. It's New York State town law. It's like 68K, I think. So that's the Southold enabling legislation. And it lists out a bunch of things that you can use the fund for, which are, to me, sort of like the two meaty parts of this are what percentage would we want to propose that would be the real estate transfer tax percentage of the real estate sales. This, we would be allowed, as opposed to the community preservation fund where we were restricted to what the law allowed us to do. There's more wiggle room if we go the home rule authority route. We could have exemptions for the real estate transfer tax, which they did in Southold, or they did in Peconic Bay area. And then the other meaty part, besides the issue of the percentage, would be what latitude do we have for what we could use the funds for, and what do we want to make sure that we would request be in the enabling legislation, both so that we'd be able to have the flexibility to shape that plan to really solve the issues. But also, I think we would really, because we're moving, we don't have to have an adopted plan to have this on the ballot. I think we need to lay the groundwork for what we think this should be. So that to me is like the meaty part that I'm really wanting to like hear from the community. But it's things like they're able to use it as a loan fund for first time home buyers that gets the loan payments get repaid back to the fund. Like something like that is like very exciting, I think. And now how we would administer that, that's something that we really have to work through. You know, really exciting ideas, but then you have to think about how would we like carry these things out. So I'm excited to assist in hosting these sessions because I think it'll be really conversational is the goal and really get the temperature of the community. We also have a promotion strategy that I'm excited about. I'd really like to see these events be well attended and lay the groundwork for this is how we want to do things. I anticipate we're going to be having a lot of sessions about real estate transfer tax because our goal is to have, I mean, my goal would be to have the community preservation plan and this on the ballot this November. But that means that there's going to be community-wide discussion about the two, and the community will get to decide whether they want both or one, and like how, you know, so that's something that we have to consider as a board in how we want to move forward for this.
So that was April 27th and what?
And May 7th,
29.
27th.
May 7th is a Wednesday.
Yes, yeah, we tried to do a weekend and a weekday. So in the current meeting folder, I do have a project plan document for those events. for you guys to see. We're working with the Housing Advisory Committee to flesh those out. I was not planning on having those be official board meetings, but that's something that we can talk about at our next meeting. If it's an official board meeting, we'd have to have a quorum in order to open the meeting. And if it's not, then we
Can't have a quorum.
can't, yeah. Can't conduct business together, so I think, you know, it's a line between, you know, attending Heritage Day all at the same time and all of us participating in an event where we're gathering feedback that we would be working legislation from. So it is something to think about for our next meeting, if we wanted to do that officially, or if we want to let the Housing Advisory Committee host the event.
And they're developing materials for like to hand out to the public with like an example case to break down.
Yes,
the numbers.
there's that, you know, I think we're bringing in like people who work in housing, so I think, you know, I think there should be tabling of resources. There's also like lots of, like the ADU +1 program is gonna be opening. We wanna have like a lot of information for people. But yeah, there'll be information. Also, we want to do a follow-up. So we'll be gathering contact information from attendees so we can do a follow-up survey. Yeah, it's been a lot of discussions.
Yes, Erin's kind of taking the lead with the housing committee on the discussions of the actual planning of the event so far.
Yeah,
So I've been planning plenty of other housing events in the past month. And yeah, I think I'm really excited for it, for them to happen. My portion of the piece is to find all of our locals who have dealt with the housing crisis in recent years to be on the panels.
yeah,
And to get a wide variety. So I already have one 70-year-old that rents an apartment that's willing to talk, so.
yeah.
Yeah, it should be really good. I'm most excited to hear back from the community
Yeah.
about how they want us to spend the fund, what they're looking for the direction that we take it in, what can be most beneficial, you know, across the board. And I'm also really excited to help pair the hack presentables from the housing site inventory of the 2 corridors with this, that kind of does like the homework piece of the mapping to identify sites for these. We had 8 corridors. So I guess a quarter of town. So they kind of have a little more backup than I think the CPP team did, even though they had an expert with them. They have some more town specific backup than the actual law specific, which will be interesting and nice to see.
So take a look at that. So in the folder's called Housing RETT. I've got the background research documents, the draft enabling legislation, the project plan, and you can let me know if you have any feedback. We're meeting all together early next week to put the speakers together and keep moving forward. Also planning on having refreshments. We talked about like what makes an event a good event and, you know, just kind of stepping up our like game for engaging with the community.
Our hosts.
Yeah. I just did a lot of talking. Does anyone else have anything they want to share on that or any questions? Moving on, noise ordinance. Well, I didn't ask you to present this, Michael, but would you like to? Or you worked on this. I don't want to take away.
Sure,
the
well,
work you
I
did.
have to refresh myself because I think it was like 3 years ago at this point.
I was gonna say, did you make any changes from the last time, Michael?
No, well,
This
so,
is exactly where we left it.
yeah, so. Including my feelings of rejection and despair. No, so, you know, I mean, I can explain high level what my thinking was, because this has been an issue ongoing. And I'm sensitive to the fact that a lot of noise ordinances just become people that are bothered by things that are normal everyday occurrences in a farming community that has a lot of different types of businesses that operate in here. So the original idea was that the most egregious violations seem to be with amplified sound and with music. And the thought was that we could just have very specific requirements that tied to amplified sound. I remember I didn't want to get into like the whole decibel thing. I was trying to be like very cut and dry, like there was no amplified sound. I think it was between, you know, before 8 a.m. and after 10 p.m. on any day. I think actually now I'm looking at it, it left in the decibels, but in my mind, it's easy to say if you hear it beyond the property line, then it's a violation of the noise ordinance. So that was kind of the thought. I didn't want to ban anything that was going to be, and actually, as I look at this, some of the stuff is in here. So there are things like construction shouldn't start before 7 a.m. and shouldn't go
take that out.
past 7 p.m. I think we can probably remove things like that. You know, lawn mowers, lawn care thing. I think that's, you know, people are going to do that work when it makes sense based off of temperature. So really, I think we need to look through this, and I didn't write all this from scratch. This was taken from some other New York State noise ordinances. So I think the goal for me would be to go through here, whittle this down so that we're not being overly onerous on any uses that we want to make sure are allowed, and really focus on the music that's going way past 10 p.m. The real egregious things that we continue to hear about, where it's like people's windows are shaking because
Yeah,
the venue next door is.
that's a sticky wicket. Some people were complaining about like semi-automatic rifle fire, for example.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get specific about uses or?
Well, I think that what I was proposing at the time would not regulate it. And I hear people doing target practice throughout the summers, and it's, you know, it's just fact of life living around here. But I think the playing music, especially if you're, you know, a restaurant that's doing it 5 nights a week and it's going till 11 p.m.
I mean, most of the complaints are coming from businesses. They're not
Yeah,
neighbor to neighbor.
right. Well, and that's another consideration. Like I don't want to be so stringent in this where if a family wants to have a party,
Right.
you know, so maybe we have some kind of permit process where, you know, a residence X amount of times per year can apply, get a permit, and then, you know, have authorization to do that. Because I don't want to create a scenario where, good thoughts, Aaron?
I will.
I don't want to create a scenario where we're incentivizing like neighbor to neighbor disputes, so we want to prevent.
I mean,
this-
I
this
think-
kind of egregious violation.
I think what we're really talking about is amplified sound.
Yeah.
Knowing that most of the complaints are coming from businesses. I think that we have to make sure that we're not doing anything to preclude people who are making a living, well, with sod or lawnmowers or whatever. And as long as we can differentiate that, because I mean, and the rest of the problem is really which is things like what Michael was saying on the public comment. I think that's what we should be concentrating on.
Yeah, I think the thing, this might be too extreme. There are people who are individuals who live in homes that play music really loud and cause like a nuisance. I'm hesitant to, I don't know how we would do it, but I'm sort of more inclined to make a law that applies to commercial operations. And is for amplified sound that is like really clear and direct that about how it's enforced. And just that's sort of where I can understand those situations where, but I think we could, for example, we might be able to include Airbnbs in the commercial use. And not create the neighbor to neighbor, like, I just, in terms of enforcement, I think if really
Yeah.
clear and direct and we know exactly who the commercial operations are, it's gonna make it easier to actually enforce. But that's, I'm just,
Is that doable? Mary Lou, could we be that specific and only have it apply to commercial uses?
Yeah, you probably could. We could probably find a way to structure it for that. And I just want to mention that in this and your exceptions, something that everyone has to consider when you do come up with your final document is there are specific laws for the raceways in our code, and they have, I think, what are higher decibel averaged limits. So just be aware of that.
But what about amplified sound?
Yeah, that's car sound, not amplified speakers.
Yeah.
No, it's-
Right. Well, I'm just saying that when you know,
oh, yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was the cars making the noise.
No,
right,
but they also
but
have.
they have loudspeakers.
Their speaker would, but their speakers would be under this, just like car noises in the.
We'd
You
have
have
to
to
look
look
into
into
that. We'd have to look into that. I don't want to make a broad pronouncement.
Yes, yeah. I
So
understand.
would we create a new fee schedule or like fine schedule for violations?
Yes, this would be a standalone law. It
Yeah.
would not be part of our zoning code. It would be a totally separate law.
So we could make beefier fines.
I believe so, right? Mary?
Yeah,
We're
like
not
our
like
material
restricted.
fines, yeah.
There might be
Painful.
some,
Number 3 or 5, yeah.
would we also have say on who we would have to put who the enforcement officers are, yeah.
Yes.
Mary Lou, can we put where the fines are? This has to go through the court if someone violates, right? It couldn't
Yes.
be
Yes,
by-
everybody gets due process. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, I think in
Yeah, sorry.
principle, we're all sort of on, sounds like we're all on the same page,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of specific.
So what would our goals be? Do we want to have a next draft by our next workshop and continue to workshop it? Is that a good?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I
so.
think
Okay.
that's fine, and then try to like
Um,
probably do public here, schedule a public hearing.
By next meeting.
Settled at the end of
Yeah.
next workshop.
Yeah.
when we
That's in a
finish.
month. So I think if
There's-
we,
That's
Yeah.
reasonable for us.
um. Is there anyone who would like to sort of sponsor this? I am doing our annual financial update next month. So I can definitely assist, but I don't think I could like move this completely by myself.
I can continue, I can take another look at this draft and.
Oh,
And so we're thinking we want to limit this further to commercial uses. Amplified sound.
I think it's worth looking into, if we could include the things that we know are,
I think that's a smart start. And we can always make an amendment if we find that we have an outpouring of residents with neighbor to neighbor complaints of amplified noise. But I think Eric's right, I think starting with commercial and like those clear Airbnbs, hopefully we can include, STRs. Having those businesses that we know we get the complaints from. for these issues
Residents
first.
also call like the state troopers.
yes.
For resident to
New-
resident.
They can.
complaints as well.
Nuisance noise is, they can get nuisance tickets.
Yeah.
Oh, they can, even without a noise ordinance.
Yes.
I'll tell you why.
And I mean,
It's an acronym.
I would guess that you'll get lots of people when you get to the public hearing, and you know, you'll find out how they feel about this applying to residents as well
Yeah,
as commercial or not.
Yeah, we'll find out.
yeah.
So people not get nuisance tickets for the commercial properties there?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
I mean, I think they could. I also think that generally the state police and the county sheriff, these are lower priority. They have other things to deal with and we don't have a whole lot of coverage. I mean,
Well,
we're
I
lucky
know-
in that we have the Gerhonks barracks,
Yeah.
you know, close
I know, I
by.
opened my door at 11 p.m. at night to the state police who were looking for my neighbor's property.
Well, that
It
must
was,
have been
it
a
was a
relief.
911 call that they didn't know where it was and it triangulated to my house. I was like, yeah, I was dressed. They were very friendly about
Right, but you know,
it. For 4 of them.
the noise complaints generally aren't a priority, which makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it was 911 calls.
so I think we have a reasonable goal to get a new working draft. The deadline for that should, I think we should try to have that uploaded for the board the Friday before that April 24th meeting. So everyone has a chance to take a look at it. Because if we want to try and schedule a public hearing that night, we really need to have, you know, something that we feel good about. We can also not schedule, if we decide it needs work, we can just not schedule the public hearing that night, but we'll just move it along. It is 8:50, so I kind of want to get through the end of the agenda because we have an executive session. So basically, did anyone take a look at the building condition survey report that I put in? I did. It's 4 years old and probably the prices are 50% of what they are now. Yeah, they're 50% of what they would be if that was cost out now.
The building's better now.
Huh?
Have any of the buildings gotten better?
No. No, none of the buildings have gotten better.
Was the construction bit, I can't remember.
Wait, for which one?
This building.
Oh, this one's done. Yeah.
It's done.
We
No, but it was
improved,
done when the survey was done?
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
21.
yeah,
This was-
it hadn't been closed out yet. The grant hadn't been closed out, but that's just because of grant.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I was like,
The Alagorville Firehouse also hasn't been closed out because
yeah, yeah.
they're
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, it just those grants take a long time to close out. Go ahead.
Is it gonna be a continuing problem? Is there anything we can do to address the fact that we don't get bids on a lot of these projects?
I think we're trying to address that just through better, Kate and I talked about what the prior practice was and it was not something that would reach people.
Right.
I think prior it was just posted on the New York State bid page. So I'm trying, I would really like to get people, contractors, industry people to sign up to receive the email update for when we post on the bid page on the website, because then they'll get an email.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to like promote that, and we've talked about having a board at the code enforcement office, so I have gotten quite a bit of activity around the one we have open right now.
Okay.
So I think just like we have to have promotion strategies for these things. But in terms of the building conditions, I think we really need, this original bid was supposed to come with a plan. Which I don't think we ever got, so I was gonna reach out.
No,
to
and I looked in my.
I
files, too.
found a spreadsheet that's called draft, but it's just the building conditions survey. So I don't know if there was a amendment, like if there was a change order done, but I was gonna reach out to the firm and see if anything ever came of that, because I don't have it in my files. But I think it's clear to me that we need to build a new town hall building. But there's other building issues that we have. We have a condemned barn next door, like we need to have that demolished. The transfer station needs a complete replacement of much of the infrastructure there. I think we need to prioritize coming up with a 10-year capital improvement plan. And grants are great, but I think we need to start creating a fund for these. This has never happened here. our town has never had anything like that. So, and it's not uncommon, but, you know, I think where I'm coming from is being in this office is the sort of daily or weekly, this heater's not working. This roofing material flew off of this building. The siding is deteriorating off of this, but like, I'm not joking. This is like a weekly thing. And you know, we just did a repair on the highway garage that's supposed to last 3 years. We have 2 more years left. That's $125,000 project to actually repair that roof. So, you know, I think this board, we're very smart. I think we can do this, but I don't feel like I can do it alone. I don't feel like it's something I can do. So I wanted to ask you guys what you think like our first steps should be. The only thing we've done is we got this building condition survey in 2021, but I just wanted to open it up and see. Yes.
I got ideas. First, the barn needs to come down.
Yes, yeah.
But I think that
It's a liability.
above all else, that's outside of like immediate safety dangers of things, the barn needs to come down. And the trailer needs to go from behind it on this property. I also think the barn at the transfer station needs to go. I think that before we try to start building up and start doing complete buildings or completely rehauling any buildings that need it, like town hall, I think that having those parcels emptied for those areas so that we better know like our area and can maybe plot them for some of the buildings or something else to maybe go there that we need, it'd be better to have those gone first. As I think we can start where we should be heading, but for the planning, I think. I don't know.
I would take your top 3 buildings with the most violations and
Yeah.
make those your priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I just know, like, that's why the barn is -- 1 to me, because that's been out of code for. In condemned.
I think transfer stations.
It's,
Even older guys.
well,
And there's some things I think you probably could do this year and then just. But yes, I agree. You need to have a plan and I would start with your top priority of. Repairs that need to happen.
Is it possible to create a list of contractors we've used before or that just get a sense of what their lead time and availability is? Like, what's the usual process for even finding them?
I think we first kind of, in terms of like operationally, I think we first have to identify what it is, what our priority list is, what solutions we're looking towards. And then we would identify like, who do we need? Is this an engineering issue? Is this a construction issue? Is this a electric issue?
All right, so if we start with condemned buildings, these 3 top offenders, then yeah, start there.
I guess, yeah, I'm happy to help work with this. The starting of the planning on this for you, Aaron, if you want someone to start like making and forming a document based off of. The survey that the condition survey from 4 years ago, just of like. The different properties, what we need on each of them, you know, like the bullet point, like starting point list for us to develop into the plan if you want.
And I need to reach out to CPL and see if they ever created the 5-year plan. Because they did, the survey is a little weird because they basically, when they did the presentation to the town board, they definitely were like just presenting a plan to repair. But then they'd be like, it'd be a lot less for you to just full on replace this building. But I don't have that information
Yeah, they didn't do the
documented.
breakdown of like short term, midterm, and long.
They have it a little bit in
A
there,
little bit,
but they
right.
don't have the like, we recommend this building should be fully replaced.
Mhm.
It's just if you total up the, you know, repairing, for example, the dog kennel, they're like made a plan to repair the dog kennel, it'd be like $150,000. this is off of memory, I didn't really look at it, and it was like, yeah, it would cost a lot less to just like tear it down. But that's not, there's not like I haven't found the plan document, which was in the bid package that we put out, so. I will reach out to them first to see if that just isn't in, it's possible that it was created and I just can't find it in the files. But we're almost at 5 years, so. Oh. But I think then there's, to me, the biggest concern is like funding sources and like, how are we gonna plan for the funding? And I think, you know, if we can identify priorities, what fits into the budget and whatever amount of fund balance we wanna put towards things sort of in each year, but I think we need to be planning on, you know, millions of dollars of improvements over the next 10 years. And that's just, we can't not do that. We can't do that without a plan. So I need to make this a priority because I'm very aware of the Band-Aids and how much it costs, you know? And the tension that I feel of trying, you know, we have a budget of $35,000 in buildings to do this work. And I'm like, do I spend the $5,000 on the, you know, it's always a struggle because I don't know, you know, you know, as a business owner, I kind of have that hat on where I'm like, why would we do this if that's one of the reasons why we went with the $22,000 roof repair on the highway garage, because we were like, we don't want to spend $125,000 if we're going to be doing a major capital improvement project down the line. So, yeah. Okay. Well, you guys are ready if this could be a priority.
Yes, yeah, and I'm happy to make time to come like in the office and help you. with any document.
Yeah, we've got, so like our major buckets of priorities are community preservation plan, housing, real estate, transfer tax. We have perhaps another ballot initiative, noise ordinance, and then pretty soon, you know, then we've got budget. So just, I'm trying to make sure that we are not overburdening ourselves with. We can't really take on a lot more, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Got a whole new member.
Okay. We need to add the amendments to the Housing Advisory Committee.
We can table it and I can bring them. I just didn't get a chance to type my red lines for you guys to present them in time to you for this meeting. I physically have them.
Do you wanna?
You guys are, well, it's mostly just changing the term limits so that they're staggered, because we didn't do that the first time.
Yeah.
And adding changing the minimum and maximum of
The number of
numbers of seats. That's really the main edits. And then I want to change it. We referred to everyone as citizens the entire.
Saw that.
And I don't love using citizens as the verbiage. I prefer residents. We have residents that aren't citizens, that, you know.
Yeah.
Have been here for many a year, or not, green cards
Okay.
or what have you. So it's mostly those, and then just the terms, just so that we can, I'm hoping that we can get a wider base and more support on that committee, since they're gonna have a lot coming down the line, especially if the transfer tax gets on the ballot and passes. You know, I think that's gonna be something we end up handing to them to
So
help.
we'll table till
Table, yeah.
April 10th. Kate got us the resolution 221 of 2022.
Yes, give me a lot of email to find it when I found.
The one thing Mary Lou said is because everyone served their first term and it expired. So we'll kind of be making it as of like
a new committee
Okay.
whenever we pass.
Yeah, and then if you want, if you have those ideas and we wanna make those appointments at the next meeting, we could do that
Yeah,
after. Okay,
yes, that's what I was hoping for, because there's a couple. I almost played the non-voting member idea for a second too when trying to do it, because we have some members that. Are helpful, but they aren't as in touch with the community, so they don't always. And so, but I think
Oh,
doing
hmm.
1 year
Yeah.
and 2 term year limits will like solve that for me. And then I just, Kate, how many? Oh, sorry, it's okay. I just know you'll know this. How many active hamlets do we have in town right now? Like actual, like.
Active,
Yeah, like what you would consider, like if someone was gonna ask you what the hamlets of town were today.
we really have, I would say, 2 active. You have Allergerville and Accord, and I don't even know if you really want to say Allergerville's an active hamlet, but and parts of Cohonson, but a lot of Cohonson is Warsing.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't really consider any other
There's so many
hamlet
towns.
active.
How many towns we have in townships that make up?
Rochester?
Yeah.
Well, you have parts of High Falls, you have parts of Stone Ridge, Cohonson, Accord, Cohonson, Accord, and there's maybe
Olive
3
Bridge.
parcels in Olive Bridge.
yeah,
Yeah, there's.
And Gardner, you might have a parcel or 2.
Okay,
Gardner.
thank you.
but-
is there a reason for this
There's,
question?
listen, there's some madness in my brain on how to figure out the numbers of people for the housing committee.
Oh,
I'm trying to get a wide variety of backgrounds in town and areas of town because I live in the Kaiserreich Allergerville hamlet and it's our housing's way different needs than in the Accord hamlet or in Cohonson. So that's why I was trying to find like a number that might represent how
Oh,
many to get like that balance.
You mean like the old school districts? Like Tabasco and
Yeah.
Cherrytown?
I don't know,
There's
it's
a lot
almost
of
like the
those.
tentacles that we had on the map for
60
the
of
housing
those.
site where it was like 8 corridors of like the main.
Right.
streets. All right, we can move on.
okay.
I'll ponder Kate about history in my head.
Anything for general discussion? It's 9:05.
This general discussion, I would like us to try to hopefully appoint some people for the CPP committee to do the review since I think end of June is when we have to get that to.
August 5th.
Oh, okay, oh yeah, because that one doesn't have to go to assembly first. That just goes right to the request for the ballot after the public hearing processes.
I
Yes.
did get an editable version of that and it's in Dropbox. So there's
Yeah.
a Word version of that and we got the map.
And the shape files.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
I
you
saw
for
that there
doing
was
that,
something
Michael.
on there. Thank you for doing that. I thought so.
Yeah. And then there's a pages document, which I don't know,
Yes, I would like
special application, I never even noticed. It's
pages.
Yeah,
It's on
Word.
an Apple, I don't do Apple.
Okay.
Okay. So. Business meeting, we've reviewed some things, that throughout the meeting. Already, the things that you guys don't know about is we'll have the annual court financial, that's not due until April 30th. I got a letter, so I tabled it because I hadn't finished. So that I will have that for that agenda. So the board is responsible for doing a review of court records, mostly because it's financial. Their fines flow through the general fund account. So we do a review of their books. Their bank accounts, I mean, are just for holding fines until they go into the general fund. Then we pay out the portion that's due to the state. So it's basically an audit of their books, and a review of court records. So I'll have that. I've been there a few times over the past month and a half to, and I'll be able to complete that next week. Then I think I have I'll have a our annual recycling report also has to get adopted by the town board. But but that's, other than all the other things we've talked about, so more, we'll do an interview. It sounds like we're gonna have more appointments on the schedule. We're aiming to set the public hearing for the Charter Spectrum franchise agreement. And then we'll have our regular reports too.
And they're gonna have a public hearing for it. I don't think you were here, so they scheduled a public hearing for the 10th.
Oh, you guys scheduled a
Oh,
public
yes,
hearing?
yeah, we.
Oh,
scheduled
okay.
them.
We have a public hearing on the 24th too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, I did one on the 10th
okay.
when I was chairing the meeting
All right.
temporarily.
That's it.
What-
6 to 8.
Yeah.
Meeting it, that public hearing too.
That's it.
Yeah.
I know, right? You don't even have to show up till.
Yeah. That's great, because I'm
You can
really
come late.
running with around like a chicken with my head cut off.
I should
on
figure out how
the-
to start the
30
Zoom.
minutes.
Um,
Schedule the other one at 7.
I don't know if, we're looking at the, policies for the free exchange. I don't know if you want.
Oh, yeah, we should do that. Do you want to give a little? You want to say what that is for the board?
Well, people are aware we have a free exchange at the transfer station. And so I think both the transfer station employees and the people that are volunteering at the free exchange kind of want a set of guidelines to both inform them and then as well as to provide residents so that there's a clear understanding of what the expectations are. Because people are getting confused, there's disagreements about who should pay, when, why. I've met with both groups and Aaron was there with transfer station employees and kind of agreed that I would do an initial draft of policies, review it with the different groups, and then we could see if the board thinks, shape that.
So we'll have that, we'll see for the free exchange on the agenda. There's some other items that we've taken, oh, right, the fees for code enforcement and building. I'm gonna go through, there's some other items we've tabled and I'll see if they fit, but we had the procedures for boards and commissions, which I think would be helpful, because I just had to remind one of the boards that they're a public body, and when they schedule meeting, they change their meeting day, and I was like, oh, that's supposed to get noticed. So we need to put things like that so that everybody's clear on what they're supposed to do. So if I have capacity, we have a good draft of that, but we just haven't been able to finish it, but I'll either have that on this agenda or the next one. Okay, so unless there's anything else, we can go into executive session.
I motion to enter executive session at 9:11 p.m. for the purposes of matters leading to the discipline of a particular person.
And matters
And-
regarding the medical history of a particular person.
Second.
That.
Do you need me at the executive session?
No, we don't.
Okay, everybody have a good night. Nice seeing you all.
Good night.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain?
Will birthday, dates be publicized? Or dates?
Oh,
They should.
they should be.
But.
It'll definitely be the 19th, I know that,
Oh, okay.
but they usually do it 2 consecutive weeks, so I don't, yeah. So I don't know if it would be like the 12th and the 19th or the 19th and the 26th.
And that will be for them. to handle.
Yeah.
And
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Barb.
I just hope everybody watching appreciates how much